Okay, having discussed that risk premium is a function of the systematic risk, we now move on to the determination of the relationship between risk and the return and the security market line thereon. Now, let me drop a graph where I take the systematic risk on the x-axis, that is risk. It is the measured by the beta. I already said that beta measures the systematic risk, and let me take the expected returns on an investment on the y-axis. I will draw a curve, a straight line, that is first it is the nominal risk-free rate over here. Now this curve that shows the combination of the risk and the return is known as security market line. Now what we want to study here is the actually the movements, how actually what is going to happen to this security market line when there are changes in the attitude, when there is change in the nominal risk-free rate, or when there is change in the preference of an individual towards this risk. Now there are three factors that we will consider here. First is the movement along security market line. The second we will consider is the change in slope of SML, and third we will consider a parallel shift in security market line. Now first what we are talking about is a movement along the SML, which means that an investor can place the alternative investment anywhere along this SML without actually changing the slope, or without actually shifting this SML, which means that, say for example, for this amount of the risk, an investor is going to demand this amount of the returns. However, if I increase, so let me take it as a low risk. Now somehow if he wants to take the more risk, say for example average risk, so for the average risk he is going to demand more returns. As the risk is increasing, the returns are also increasing. Now if he is taking the high risk, again increasing the risk and going to the high part, which means that he is going to demand more returns for it. So in this case he is placing different securities along the same investment depending upon his attitude or his preference towards the risk. Say for example, if he is willing to take this amount of the risk, so he is going to demand this amount of the returns. Now the second scenario, that is the change in the slope of the SML. Now let me draw first an SML for you. This is the beta, this is expected return, and this is our SML, and this is the nominal risk-free rate. Now what happens if the investor's attitude towards the risk changes? Say for example, he is considering the same investment, however he is expecting that this investment is now more risky, or he is saying that or his attitude towards the investment is changing, which means that he is now going to demand more risk premium because of the increase in the risk of the particular investment, which means that there is going to be a change in the slope of the SML. And let me first talk about the slope of the SML in itself is the beta, which means the risk, and the systematic risk. Now if its attitude towards the risk is changing, so which means that he is going to demand he's going to he's what he's saying he's going to demand a more risk premium as because of the increase in the risk of the particular investments, which means that the slope of the investment is going to change. However, if this was the original SML, there is going to be a different SML that is going to be drawn, a new SML. This indicates that there is a change in the attitude of the investor towards the risk, which says that for the same amount of the risk now, the investor is demanding higher returns because he is expecting that this investment is now risky, and thus he is demanding the more returns from it. In a similar manner here, we will say that his first, let me consider this point, because over here for the same amount of the risk he was demanding this amount of the returns. However, over here for the same amount of the risk he is demanding an additional returns. So this additional returns over here is known as risk premium. It is because his attitude towards this investment is changing. He is now saying that this investment is more risky, so which means that he is going to demand more returns from an investment. And the third case that we are going to discuss over here is the parallel shift in the SML. Now let me first draw. This is the beta and this is the expected returns. Now suppose this was my first SML. This is the nominal risk-free rate. Now if there is a change in the nominal risk-free rate, which means that there is going to be a different SML that's going to be drawn. This is the change in the nominal risk-free rate. Let me denote as this. So there is going to be a parallel shift in the SML.